Captain Jake Morrison sat in his chair on the bridge of the cargo ship New Haven. The ship was not pretty or fast, but it was strong and could carry lots of supplies to faraway places. Jake had been flying cargo runs for 12 years now. He knew every sound his ship made and every light on his control panels. The New Haven was 3 days into a normal supply run to the colonies near the edge of human space. They carried food, medicine, and tools that the colonists needed to survive. It was not exciting work, but it was important work. Jake liked helping people, even if it meant long trips through empty space. Lisa Chung worked at the communications station. She had been part of Jake's crew for 5 years and was very good at her job. She could fix any radio problem and could hear signals that other people missed. Right now she was listening to the normal space traffic chatter when something strange came through her headphones. "Captain," Lisa said, looking up from her station. "I'm getting something weird on the emergency frequency." Jake turned his chair toward her. "What kind of weird?" "It's very weak and breaking up a lot. Sounds like a distress call, but it's not coming from any human ship or colony." Lisa played with her controls, trying to make the signal clearer. "The voice sounds different too, not human." The other crew members on the bridge stopped what they were doing. Ryan Brooks, the chief engineer, looked up from his repair reports. Amy Rodriguez, who ran the scanners, turned in her chair. Dr. Helen Carter, who was checking medical supplies, walked over to listen. "Can you clean it up?" Jake asked. Lisa worked on her equipment for several minutes. Static filled the bridge speakers. Then slowly a voice came through. The words were in Galactic Standard Language, but the accent was strange, and the speaker sounded very scared. "Anyone, please help us. The harvest fleet came. They destroyed our worlds. We are the last ones left. Please, anyone." The message repeated several times, then faded into static again. The bridge was quiet for a long moment. "Harvest fleet?" Ryan asked. "Never heard of them." "The signal is coming from outside mapped space," Amy said, checking her scanner readings. "About 3 days' travel from here, maybe 4. Jake thought about what to do. The New Haven was a cargo ship, not a rescue vessel. They had no weapons except for some small guns to fight off pirates. If they went to help, they might be flying into danger, but someone was asking for help. That meant something to Jake and his crew. "Lisa, can you tell how long the signal has been broadcasting?" Jake asked. Lisa worked on her equipment again. "Based on the signal strength and the way it's fading, I think it's been going for weeks, maybe longer." "Weeks," Dr. Carter said quietly. "They've been calling for help for weeks, and no one answered." Jake looked around at his crew. These people had been with him for years. They had shared dangers and good times together. He knew what they were thinking without asking. "We're carrying medical supplies and food," Jake said. "If someone needs help, we might be able to do something." "The colonies are expecting their supplies," Amy pointed out. "We'll be late if we make this detour." "The colonies have enough supplies for now," Ryan said. "Remember, we brought them extra food last month." Dr. Carter nodded. "If people are dying out there, medical supplies won't help the colonies more than they'll help whoever is sending that signal." Jake looked at each of his crew members. He saw the same thing in all their faces. They wanted to help. It might be dangerous, and it might be stupid, but they could not ignore someone calling for help. "All right," Jake said. "Lisa, record a message to Colony Command. Tell them we're investigating a distress call and will be delayed. Amy, plot a course to the signal source. Ryan, make sure our engines are ready for whatever we might find." "What about weapons?" Ryan asked. "We only have the anti-pirate guns. If there's trouble, we'll run," Jake said. "But maybe we won't need to fight. Maybe we can just help." The New Haven changed course, turning away from the safe route to the colonies and toward the unknown signal. Jake knew he might be making a big mistake, but he also knew he could not live with himself if he ignored people asking for help. As the ship traveled through space toward the distress call, Lisa kept trying to improve the signal. Sometimes she could hear more words. The aliens called themselves Velani. They talked about something called the Harvest Fleet at 8 worlds. They begged anyone listening to please come help them. 3 days later, the New Haven reached the edge of the system where the signal was coming from. What Amy's scanner showed made everyone on the bridge feel sick. "Captain," Amy said, her voice shaking, "I'm reading massive debris fields where the planets should be. It looks like whole worlds were broken apart." Jake stared at the scanner readings. Someone had destroyed entire planets. Who could do such a thing? And why? "I'm still getting the distress signal," Lisa said. "It's stronger now. Coming from a small moon hidden behind the system's gas giant. Take us there," Jake ordered. "But stay ready to run if we see anything dangerous." The New Haven moved carefully through the dead system, past the broken pieces of what had once been living worlds, toward the last place where anyone was still alive. The New Haven moved slowly toward the hidden moon. Jake kept his ship far enough away to run if needed, but close enough to see what was happening. Amy's scanners showed something that made no sense. "Captain, there are ships attacking the moon." "Base," Amy said. "But these ships look wrong." Jake looked at the scanner display. The attacking ships were not like anything he had seen before. They were smooth and curved like living things, but they were made of metal and had weapons. They moved like hunters, circling the small moon base like wolves around prey. "How many ships?" Jake asked. 12 attacking ships. The moon base has some defenses, but they're not very strong." Amy watched her screens. The attacking ships keep backing off, then coming in again, like they're playing with their food. Dr. Carter came to the bridge carrying her medical kit. "If there are survivors down there, they might need help." "We can't fight 12 ships," Ryan said. "Our little guns won't do much against those things." Jake thought fast. The New Haven was not a warship, but maybe they could help in other ways. "Lisa, try to contact the moon base. Let them know we're here." Lisa worked her radio controls. After a few minutes, a weak signal came through. The voice was different from human voices, higher and more musical, but the fear was clear. "Unknown ship, please stay away. The harvest comes for us. Save yourselves." "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human ship New Haven," Jake spoke into the radio. "We got your distress call. We're here to help." There was a long pause. Then the alien voice came back, sounding surprised. "Human? We do not know this word. Are you one of the great powers? Have the Zenthari finally answered our call?" "We're just humans," Jake said. "We heard someone needed help, so we came." Another pause. "You came ... just to help? But you are unknown to us. Why would you risk danger for strangers?" Jake looked at his crew. They all nodded. "Because you asked for help." The alien voice was quiet for a moment. "I am Zenthka, leader of the last Vilani survivors. We have been hiding here for 43 days. The Harvest Fleet found our worlds and consumed everything. They break apart planets and eat all life. We sent distress calls to every known species, but no one came." "No one?" Dr. Carter asked, shocked. "The great powers said the cost was too high. The trading guild said it was not profitable. The military alliances said one species was an acceptable loss to avoid war with the Harvest Fleet." Zenthka's voice was full of sadness. "We learned that we are alone in the universe." Jake felt anger growing in his chest. How could anyone just let a whole species die? "You're not alone now. We're here. But you are only one small ship. The Harvest Fleet has hundreds of vessels. They will come back soon with more ships to finish us. Jake looked at Amy's scanner. Readings. The attacking ships had stopped their attack and were moving away from the moon. They're leaving. Why? They returned to their motherships to report. Soon they will come back with enough force to crack this moon open like an egg. Senthka sounded tired. There is no hope left. There's always hope, Jake said. Can we land? On your moon? We have medical supplies and food. You should run while you can. Save yourselves. We didn't come this far to run away. We came to help. Jake ordered Amy to find a safe landing spot on the moon. The new haven touched down near the Villani base, which was built into caves and tunnels. Jake, Dr. Carter, and Lisa put on their spacesuits and went outside. Villani who met them were unlike anything they had seen before. They were tall and thin with long arms and legs. Their skin was blue-green like plants, and their eyes were large and golden. They moved slowly, as if they were very tired or very scared. Senthka was waiting for them at the base entrance. When he saw the humans, he stopped walking and stared. You are predators, he said quietly. Dr. Carter stepped forward. We're here to help. I'm a doctor. Are there injured people I can treat? Senthka led them inside the base. What the humans saw made them feel sick. The Villani were dying, but not from wounds. They were dying from fear. Many just lay on the ground, staring at nothing. Others rocked back and forth, making soft crying sounds. They cannot understand what happened. Senthka explained, We are a peaceful people. We have never known war or violence. When the harvest fleet came and began destroying our worlds just to feed themselves, our minds could not accept it. Many have simply given up and are waiting to die. Dr. Carter knelt beside a young Villani who was shaking. She checked his vital signs with her medical scanner. He's healthy, but his stress levels are extremely high. How long has he been like this? Since he watched his home world break apart, Senthka said. The harvest fleet strips away the atmosphere first, then cracks the planet's crust to get to the core. Millions died in minutes. Lisa had to sit down. The idea of watching a whole planet die was too horrible to think about. Jake felt his anger growing stronger. How many worlds did they destroy? 17 so far? Billions of Villani are dead. We are all that remains of our people. Perhaps 300 survivors in this base. And no one in the galaxy tried to stop them? Senthka looked confused. Why? Would they? It is not profitable to fight the harvest fleet. It is safer to let them consume one species and hope they move on to another part of the galaxy. Jake could not believe what he was hearing. That's insane. If everyone thinks that way, then the harvest fleet will eventually eat the whole galaxy. Perhaps. But that will take thousands of years. The great powers think in terms of quarterly profits and election cycles. Dr. Carter was moving from patient to patient, trying to help the Villani who had given up hope. Most of them just looked at her with empty eyes. Jake, she called, I can treat their injuries, but I can't fix their minds. They've lost all hope. Jake walked over to Senthka. Tell me about this harvest fleet. What are they? Where do they come from? They are a collective consciousness. Individual ships, but one mind. They consume biological matter to create more ships and more of themselves. They have been doing this for thousands of years, moving from galaxy to galaxy. How? Do they choose their targets? They look for species that cannot fight back. Peaceful worlds with good resources. They avoid military powers and anything that might cost them ships. Jake nodded slowly. An idea was forming in his mind, but it was a crazy idea. A dangerous idea. Senthka, can you contact other Villani bases? Are there more survivors hiding? Somewhere? A few small groups, perhaps. But they are all like us. Afraid and hopeless. Jake made his decision. Lisa, get back to the ship and send a message to Earth. Emergency priority. Tell them we have a situation that needs immediate response. What kind of response? Lisa asked. Jake looked around at the dying Vellani, then back at his communications officer. Tell them to send everything we have. Lisa sent Jake's message to Earth through the fastest communication channels available. The message traveled through space for 6 hours before reaching Earth Command headquarters. Admiral Kate Sullivan was eating breakfast when her aide brought her the emergency report. Admiral Sullivan read Jake's message 3 times. A cargo ship captain was requesting immediate military support to fight an alien force that had destroyed 17 worlds. Most admirals would have filed this under crazy reports from space and forgotten about it. But Kate Sullivan had read Jake Morrison's service record. He had been a military pilot before becoming a cargo captain. He was not the kind of man who panicked or made things up. If Jake said there was trouble, there was trouble. Admiral Sullivan called an emergency meeting of the Earth Defense Council. Within 2 hours, every important military leader on Earth was sitting around a conference table, listening to Jake's recorded message. 17 worlds destroyed, General Bob Martin said. Billions dead, and nobody in the galaxy tried to help. If this harvest fleet is as powerful as the report suggests, we might be sailing into a fight we can't win, Admiral Tony Rodriguez pointed out. Admiral Sullivan looked around the table. Jake Morrison is asking for help to save the last survivors of an entire species. The question is simple. Do we help, or do we let them die? The room was quiet for a moment. Then General Martin spoke up. If we let genocide happen because it's safer for us, what does that make us? It makes us smart, Admiral Rodriguez said. We have a responsibility to protect Earth first. Earth is safe, Admiral Sullivan said. This harvest fleet is thousands of light years away and doesn't even know we exist. Jake Morrison found them by accident. Captain Lavra Chun, the youngest officer in the room, raised her hand. Admiral, what if we don't send military ships? What if we just send a rescue mission? A rescue mission to where? General Martin asked. Jake says they're hiding on a moon in a dead system. If we send rescue ships, the harvest fleet will attack them. Then we send ships that can fight back, Admiral Sullivan said. She stood up and walked to the big display screen. How many ships can we have ready to move in 12 hours? 47 military vessels, Admiral Rodriguez answered. But Admiral, this could start a war with aliens we know nothing about. Admiral Sullivan looked at him. They started the war when they began eating entire worlds. We're just deciding whether to fight back. The meeting lasted 3 more hours. In the end, the vote was close, but Admiral Sullivan got her way. Earth would send a fleet to help the Vellani survivors. But something unexpected happened while the admirals were arguing. Word of Jake's message leaked to the civilian news networks. Within hours, every human in the galaxy knew about the Vellani and the Harvest Fleet. The reaction was immediate and angry. Civilian ships began volunteering for combat duty. Cargo captains like Jake offered to carry supplies. Passenger ships wanted to be converted to rescue vessels. Even luxury cruise ships volunteered to carry Vellani refugees. Captain Ben Parker was the first military commander to reach the dead Vellani system with his destroyer Iron Will. He arrived to find 12 civilian ships already there, including 3 cargo haulers that had welded steel plates to their hulls and mounted mining lasers as weapons. This is Captain Parker of the Earth Defense Force, he broadcast to the civilian ships. You need to leave this area immediately. It's too dangerous. The response came from Captain Sam Torres of the converted cargo ship Defiant Storm. Captain Parker, with respect, we're not leaving. These people asked for help, and we're giving it. Ben Parker had been a military officer for 20 years. He had never seen anything like this. Civilian ships voluntarily flying into a war zone to help aliens they had never met. More ships kept arriving. The Earth fleet grew from 47 military vessels to over 200 ships of all kinds. Engineers, doctors, teachers, and farmers had all volunteered to fight an alien army to save people they didn't know. The Harvest fleet noticed the growing human presence and sent a diplomatic message. It was the first time they had ever tried to talk instead of just attack. The message was sent to Admiral Lara Chun, who had arrived with the heavy cruiser Defiant Storm. The alien voice was cold and mechanical, like a computer trying to sound alive. We are the prime consume of the Harvest fleet. You are unknown to us, but your ships suggest intelligence. We offer agreement. Leave this system and we will not harvest your species. We will mark your space as protected territory. Admiral Chun's response was broadcast on all frequencies, so every ship in the fleet could hear it. This is Admiral Lara Chun of the Human Defense Force. We reject your offer. We don't make deals with species that commit genocide. You risk much for strangers. This is not logical behavior. Logic has nothing to do with it. You're murdering innocent people. That stops now. There was a long pause before the prime consume responded. We have studied your communications and behavior patterns. You are apex predators from a high-gravity world with dangerous weather and deadly plant and animal life. Your species evolved to be aggressive and territorial. That's right, Admiral Chun said, and you just threatened our territory. But the Valani are not your species. They offer you no benefit. Why do you risk death for them? Admiral Chun looked around the bridge of her ship. Her crew was made up of volunteers who had requested combat duty when they heard about the Valani. Because someone has to. The prime consume tried a different approach. We will pay you to leave. Rare metals, energy sources, whatever you require. We don't want your money. We want you to stop killing people. That is not possible. We require biological matter to survive and reproduce. It is our nature. Then we have a problem, Admiral Chun said, because protecting innocent people is our nature. The communication ended. An hour later, Harvest fleet ships began arriving in the system. The humans counted over 300 alien vessels, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything in the human fleet. Captain Jake Morrison was still on the moon base with the Velani survivors when the first battle began. He watched through the base's observation windows as human ships fought aliens in the space above. Why? Zentka asked him. Why do your people risk everything for us? Jake watched a human destroyer explode as it rammed a Harvest ship twice its size. Because if we let monsters win, then we become the kind of people who live in a universe where monsters can win. But you barely know us. We cannot repay this debt. Jake looked at the Valani leader. We're not doing this for payment. We're doing it because it's right. On his ship's radio, Jake heard Admiral Chun broadcasting to all human vessels. All ships, this is Admiral Chun. The enemy has us outnumbered 3-1, and their ships are bigger than ours. Anyone who wants to retreat has my permission. Not a single human ship left the battle line. The Harvest fleet had fought many species over thousands of years. They had seen desperate last stands and heroic defenses. But they had never encountered anything like humans. Most species became more careful when they started losing ships. Humans became more creative and more aggressive. The prime consume sent another message to Admiral Chun. Your losses are unsustainable. Withdraw now, and we will spare your remaining ships. Admiral Chun's response was simple. Come and make us. The battle for the Valani system had begun, and the Harvest fleet was about to learn why other species called humans Deathworlders. The battle had been going on for 6 hours when the Harvest fleet realized they had made a terrible mistake. They had expected the humans to fight like every other species they had encountered. Long-range shooting, careful positioning, retreat. When losses got too high, instead, the humans fought like the predators they were. Lieutenant Colonel Nick Stevens led the first boarding party against a harvest ship. His Marines used small, fast ships to get close, then cut holes in the alien hull with plasma torches. The harvest ships were designed to process fleeing prey, not deal with predators who climbed inside and started breaking things. These ships are like giant stomachs, Nick reported over the radio as his team fought through the alien vessel. Everything is designed to dissolve and digest organic matter, but they didn't plan for someone fighting back from the inside. The Marine teams carried special weapons designed for close combat in hostile environments. Shotguns loaded with explosive shells, flamethrowers, and small bombs. They moved through the harvest ships like antibodies attacking an infection. Chief Tactical Officer Marie Johnson was coordinating the overall battle from the command ship. She had studied every piece of information about the harvest fleet and noticed something important. Admiral Chun, she called over the communication system. I think I know how they reproduce so fast. Talk to me, Marie. They have mobile shipyards hidden behind the gas giant. Every time they consume a planet, they take the biomass to these shipyards and use it to grow new ships. That's how they can replace losses so quickly. Admiral Chun looked at the tactical display. The main harvest fleet was keeping the humans busy while the shipyards continued building new vessels. How many shipyards? At least 12 that I can detect. Maybe more hidden behind moons. If we destroy the shipyards, can they still make new ships? Not without finding more biomass to consume. And there's nothing left in this system except the Velani survivors. Admiral Chun made a decision that would have shocked most military commanders. She split her fleet in half. Part of her ships would continue fighting the main harvest fleet, while the others would attack the shipyards. It was a dangerous move. Dividing forces in the face of a larger enemy was something military schools taught you never to do. But humans didn't always follow the rules that other species thought were logical. Captain Sam Torres volunteered to lead the attack on the shipyards. His converted cargo ship Defiant Storm was not fast or heavily armed, but it was tough and could take a lot of damage. Remember, Torres told his attack group, these shipyards are the key to everything. If we can destroy them, the harvest fleet can't replace their losses. Dr. Alex Turner was on Torres's ship, studying samples of harvest fleet technology that the Marines had brought back from their boarding actions. What he found was both fascinating and horrible. Captain, Alex called Torres to his lab. You need to see this. The harvest ships aren't just machines. They're partially alive. Torres looked at the alien metal samples under Alex's microscope. The metal seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. The whole fleet is connected, Alex explained. It's like one giant organism with many parts. When they lose ships, it's like losing body parts. The main consciousness becomes weaker and less coordinated. So if we kill enough of them, they'll start making mistakes? More than that. I think if we can find and destroy their central command ship, the whole fleet might collapse. Torres smiled grimly. Then we need to find their brain and put a bullet in it. The attack on the shipyards began with a coordinated strike by 20 human ships. The shipyards were massive structures, each one the size of a small moon. They were defended by harvest ships, but not as many as the humans had expected. Torres led his ship straight into the center of the largest shipyard. The Defiant Storm took heavy damage, but kept flying. Behind him, other human ships followed, firing everything they had. The shipyards were full of half-finished harvest vessels growing in organic pods. The humans destroyed everything they could find, turning months of work into floating debris. This is like destroying their nurseries. one Marine reported as his team planted explosives throughout a shipyard. No wonder they're so angry. Meanwhile, the main battle was getting more intense. The Harvest fleet was throwing everything they had at the remaining human ships. But something strange was happening. As more Harvest ships were destroyed, the survivors began making poor decisions. Nick Stevens noticed it first during another boarding action. "The aliens are confused," he reported. "They keep giving conflicting orders to their crew. It's like they can't decide what to do." Marie Johnson was tracking the battle from her command post. "The enemy response time is getting slower. They used to coordinate perfectly, but now there's delays between their ship movements." Admiral Chun realized what was happening. They're losing their connection to each other. Dr. Turner was right. Destroy enough of them, and the rest fall apart. The battle reached its climax when human scouts found the Harvest fleet's command ship. It was hidden behind the system's largest moon, protected by 50 of their best vessels. The ship was enormous, almost the size of a small planet. "That's it," Admiral Chun said, looking at the scanner readings. "That's their brain." The problem was getting to it. The command ship was protected by more firepower than the entire human fleet could handle. A direct attack would be suicide. Captain Jake Morrison had an idea. He contacted Admiral Chun from the Vellani moon base. "Admiral, what if we don't attack it directly? What if we make it come to us?" "How?" "The Harvest fleet wants to finish off the Vellani survivors. If we make them think we're evacuating the moon base, they might bring their command ship forward to oversee the final attack." It was a risky plan. They would have to make the evacuation look real, which meant actually moving the Vellani survivors into danger. But it was the only way to get close to the command ship. Zen Thi-Ka agreed to the plan when Jake explained it to him. "Our people are dying anyway," the Vellani leader said. "If this might save others in the galaxy, then we will take the risk." The fake evacuation began. Human ships approached the moon base as if they were loading refugees. The Harvest fleet took the bait. Their command ship moved forward, eager to destroy the last Vellani survivors. But Jake Morrison had one more surprise planned. The New Haven had been loaded with every explosive device the humans could find. Nuclear warheads, antimatter charges, even barrels of industrial chemicals that would burn in space. Admiral Chun, Jake called over the radio as the command ship approached. "Tell my crew I said goodbye." "Jake, what are you doing? What needs to be done?" The New Haven broke away from the moon and flew straight at the Harvest command ship. The aliens tried to stop it, but Jake's little cargo ship was too small and fast for their big guns to hit. "Jake," Morrison crashed his ship into the command ship's hull at full speed. The explosion could be seen from 3 star systems away. Effect on the Harvest fleet was immediate. Without their central command, the surviving ships began flying in circles, unable to coordinate their actions. Some attacked each other by mistake. Others just stopped moving completely. The humans had won, but the cost was terrible. Half their ships were destroyed, and hundreds of good people were dead, including Jake Morrison, the cargo ship captain, who had started it all by answering a distress call from strangers. But the Vellani were saved, and the Harvest fleet would never threaten anyone again. The explosion that destroyed the Harvest command ship lit up the dead system like a new star. Captain Sarah Mills watched from the bridge of her damaged cruiser as the remaining alien vessels drifted helplessly through space. Without their central mind to guide them, the Harvest fleet had become nothing more than empty shells. Sarah had taken command after Admiral Chun's ship was destroyed in the final battle. Now she faced the difficult job of cleaning up after the war and helping the survivors. "Status report," Sarah called to her crew. 43 human ships still operational, her tactical officer reported. 18 ships destroyed completely, 26 damaged beyond repair. And the Vellani? 212 survivors confirmed alive on the moon base. Dr. Carter says most of them are in shock, but they're physically healthy. Sarah nodded. They had saved the Valani people, but at a terrible cost. So many good humans had died to help strangers they had never met. Dr. Helen Carter was working around the clock at the Valani moon base. The survivors were slowly coming out of their hopeless depression as they realized they were truly safe. It was like watching people wake up from a terrible nightmare. Zenk Si found Dr. Carter in the medical bay 3 days after the battle. The Valani leader looked different now. The fear was gone from his eyes, replaced by something Carter had never seen in him before. Hope. Double quotes Dr. Carter, Zenka said. I have been thinking about what happened here, about what your people did for U.S. Carter looked up from her medical reports. We did what anyone should do when innocent people are in danger. But that is not true, Zenka said quietly. We sent distress calls to 47 different species, military powers, trading guilds, scientific communities. Every one of them ignored us or told us the cost of helping was too high. They were wrong. Yes, they were wrong, but you are right. Your people came across the galaxy to help strangers, knowing you might die. Why? Carter thought about the question. It was something she had been asking herself since Jake Morrison first decided to answer the Valani distress call. Because someone has to care, she finally said. If everyone just looks out for themselves, then monsters like the Harvest Fleet can do whatever they want. Someone has to be willing to fight for what's right. Zenthka was quiet for a long moment. Captain Morrison said something similar before he died. He said if you let monsters win, you become the kind of people who live in a universe where monsters can win. Jake was a wise man. He understood that protecting innocent people isn't about logic or profit. It's about being human. News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within weeks, every spacefaring species knew about the humans who had fought the Harvest Fleet to save the Valani. The reactions were mixed. Some species called the humans dangerous fanatics who would start wars over minor issues. They worried that having such aggressive neighbors might lead to problems in the future. But other species had a different reaction. They began sending messages to Earth, asking if humans would be willing to help with other problems. Pirates that no one could stop. Slave traders who operated in lawless regions. Criminal organizations that the local authorities were afraid to fight. Captain Tony Rodriguez had been Jake Morrison's communications officer on the New Haven. After Jake's death, Tony was given command of a new ship, the Helping Hand. It was built specifically for rescue missions and was loaded with medical supplies, food, and emergency equipment. Tony was on a routine patrol near the edge of human space when Lisa Chong, who had stayed with him as his communications officer, picked up a familiar signal. Captain, Lisa said, looking up from her console. I'm getting a distress call. Tony turned his chair toward her. Human ship? No, sir. Unknown species. They're calling themselves the Keth. Sounds like they're under attack by something called the Blood Raiders. Tony thought about Jake Morrison and the choice that had started everything. A simple cargo captain who heard someone asking for help and decided to answer. Plot a course to the signal, Lisa. Best speed. Sir, we don't know anything about these. Aliens. It could be dangerous. Tony smiled, remembering his old captain. When has that ever stopped us before? The Helping Hand changed course toward the distress call. Behind them, other human ships heard the signal and began following. Word spread through the human fleet that someone needed help. Within hours, 12 human ships were heading toward the unknown signal. By the time they reached the Keth system, 23 ships had volunteered for the rescue mission. The Keth were a reptilian species who lived on desert worlds. The Blood Raiders were pirates who captured entire populations to sell as slaves. When the humans arrived, they found 3 Keth worlds under attack. The battle was shorter than the fight against the Harvest Fleet, but just as intense. The blood. Raiders were used to fighting scared victims, not angry humans who treated slavery as a personal insult. Major Chris Bailey led the Marine assault on the largest raider ship. His team found hundreds of Keth prisoners locked in cages like animals. The sight made the human soldiers so angry that they forgot about taking prisoners. By the time the battle was over, the Blood Raiders no longer existed. The Keth leader, a female named Esthera, could barely believe what had happened. "You destroyed them completely," she said to Captain Rodriguez. "In one day, you ended a threat that has terrorized our people for generations." "That's what happens when bullies meet humans," Tony replied. Within 6 months, the story was the same across dozens of star systems. Pirates, slavers, and other criminals who had operated freely for years suddenly found themselves facing human warships. The galaxy was changing, and not everyone was happy about it. The Galactic Trade Council called an emergency meeting to discuss the human problem. Representatives from major species gathered on the neutral world of Nexus, primed to decide what to do about the aggressive newcomers. "The humans are disrupting established order," complained Ambassador Vuordek of the Hegemony. "They interfere in local conflicts without considering the political consequences." "They destroyed 3 pirate fleets in the Outer Rim," added Counselor Zeph 9 of the Trade Guild. "Those pirates were useful for certain operations." "You mean slavery and murder were useful for your operations?" Came a new voice from the back of the chamber. The alien representatives turned to see Dr. Helen Carter walking into the meeting. She had been invited to represent humanity in the discussions about their aggressive behavior. "Dr. Carter," the council chairman said, "you are not scheduled to speak until tomorrow." "I heard what you were talking about, so I thought I'd clear up some confusion," Carter replied. She walked to the center of the chamber and looked around at the assembled aliens. "You're not upset because we're aggressive. You're upset because we're effective. The humans have destroyed the balance of power in 17 sectors," Vuordek protested. "Criminal organizations that served important functions have been eliminated." "What important functions? Slavery, murder, genocide?" "Sometimes criminals serve as useful pressure valves for social unrest. They can be controlled and directed toward desired outcomes." Carter stared at the alien ambassador. "You're saying you let pirates and slavers operate because it was convenient for you. Politics requires difficult choices. The humans seem incapable of understanding this." Carter looked around the chamber at dozens of species who had apparently decided that some level of evil was acceptable if it made their lives easier. "You're right," she said finally. "We don't understand that. We don't understand how you can hear someone screaming for help and decide it's not your problem. We don't understand how you can let entire species die because saving them might be expensive or inconvenient. Your species is young and naive," Counselor F9 said. "You will learn that the galaxy is complicated. Sometimes good people must die so that better people can live safely." "No," Carter said firmly. "We will never learn that because it's not true. Good people don't stay safe by letting other good people die. That just creates a universe where evil wins." The council session continued for 3 more days. In the end, they passed a resolution condemning human interference in galactic affairs and calling for economic sanctions against Earth. The resolution was never enforced. Too many species had already decided they wanted human protection. Velani had formed a defense alliance with Earth. The Keth had offered exclusive trading rights to human merchants. Dozens of other species were quietly sending messages to Earth, asking for help with their own problems. 6 months later, Captain Tony Rodriguez received a message that made him smile. It was from Zenthia, who had been elected as the new leader of the rebuilt Velani government. Captain Rodriguez, the message said, we have learned that humans celebrate something called a Memorial Day to honor those who died protecting others. We would like to create a similar holiday to honor Captain Jake Morrison and all the humans who died saving our people. We want to call it Humanity Day. Tony sent back a message approving the idea. Then he called Lisa to the bridge. Lisa, send a message to all human ships. Tell them we just got another distress call. Unknown species, coordinates attached. Who wants to come help some people? The response was immediate. 17 ships volunteered within the first hour. The galaxy was. Learning that when humans heard someone calling,